Scamming is nothing new. You've got phishing scams, Nigerian prince scams, you name it. But today we're gonna be talking about 5 particularly cruel scams, downright dirty. And they happen here in Las Vegas. But if you guys watch this video to the end, they won't happen to you. The first scam we're gonna talk about happens right here at the front door of many, many casinos in Las Vegas, and that is long hauling by taxi drivers. Taxi drivers in Las Vegas are legally required to take the most direct route to your destination, unless the passenger gives them permission to go a different way. So sometimes what a driver may do is say, well, hey, I know a shortcut. Or they may say they heard there's an accident on the way you're going. Something like that to try to get you to give them permission to take a different route than the one they're actually supposed to take. Don't agree, or what you can do to hopefully avoid the entire thing is once you get in a taxi cab, you can take out your phone, pull up a GPS app, turn the volume on so that the driver hears that and the driver knows you're paying attention to the route they're taking, and that way you can hopefully negate any chance of you going a different route, because if the driver does go another way, you're going to notice it on the GPS immediately. The second scam is particularly big for those of you that love going to strip clubs here in Vegas. Now in Las Vegas, we are known as Sin City. We are known as the place where anything goes. There's no shortage of strip club promoters on the strip here, people handing out cards, all that kind of stuff here in Las Vegas. So the scam is that you are at a strip club, you're talking to one of the strippers, and she promises to come to your room to have sex with you if you give her $500 up front at the club, $1,000 up front at the club. She'll say, give me half the money now, and give me the other half back at the room, and I'll meet you there. Now, what happened at a place that I was working at, a gentleman was hanging around kind of by the entrance area, and this was an older guy who was carrying a portable oxygen tank with him. And he was standing there hanging around, and after a little while, a few minutes, he came up to me and he said, hey, do the dancers come out this way? Do they leave the club this way? Which, if someone asks you a question like that, that's a red flag right off the bat. So the guy told me what had happened. He explained the whole thing to me. He could not even remember the dancer's name, unfortunately, which commonly happens because, when you mix the alcohol with the party scene, with the low lights, the loud music, all that kind of stuff. She has a name in the system that she uses as her dancer name, but it's also possible she could even give a fake name to the customer in addition to that, because she knows she's gonna take the money and run out of there. And another thing that makes it even harder is there's a women who come here to dance in Vegas just for a weekend. They just come for a big event, like a certain convention or something like that. So if they're gonna be here just for a weekend or a convention, good luck trying to track them down after they've left the state once they've checked out and gone home. The third one I'm going to talk about is particularly terrible because it involves the elderly. Now, when it comes to gambling, the older generations, like the silent generation, the baby boomers, they typically gamble way more than the millennials do, like my generation. But nonetheless, when you sit down to gamble at a slot machine, sometimes women will put their purse on their lap, which is probably the smartest and safest way to do it. Other times they may put it next to the machine, they may put it down on the floor by their seat. That's where you become really vulnerable. And you become vulnerable because someone may just walk by, just grab your purse off the ground, and you may not even notice based on where you put it. What can also happen too is sometimes people like to work in tandem. 2 people work at one time together. One person may distract you, may get you to look to your left when your purse is down on your right-hand side, then someone can walk over and grab it and walk off, and you not even notice. Or they could just wait for the waitress to come by and talk to you, and they may grab it then. If you're sitting close to an exit door, then you're even more vulnerable to this. Now, the reason I say the elderly are more vulnerable to this than other populations is you slow down, right? Your muscles are not as strong, your vision's not as good, your hearing's not as good, you don't react as quickly. So someone who's older is going to be an easier target for people to steal from, especially when it comes to stealing ladies' purses. It's sad, it's unfortunate, but it does happen. Fourth scam we're going to talk about, and I've encountered this one several times here on the Las Vegas Strip, including this walk I am on right now, between Caesar's Palace and Treasure Island, like 3 times in under 10 minutes. And that scam involves 3-card Monte or the ball in the cup game, whatever stupid one they're doing these days. You come here and you walk on the strip. These are commonly going to be held on the sidewalk like this, or they're going to be on the pedestrian bridges. That's probably a favorite spot of them, even more than the sidewalk is the pedestrian bridge. The way the scammers lure you in is by working in a group. Now, these groups I've seen from being anywhere from 4 people to up to about 12 people big. What they do is they try to create an environment where people are around the table, they're around the game, they're acting excited, they're acting engaged and all enthusiastic. Someone will be playing who's in on the game, and they're going to quote unquote win money. And they want you to see them win money, because if you see them win money, they're trying to get you to think, hey, maybe I could win some money too. But eventually you're going to lose because the game is rigged. There are a few things that definitely give away that this scam is going on. If you just stand back and watch them for a moment, you will notice that they are typically just terrible, god-awful, just dumpster fire level acting skills put on display. They completely over-exaggerate their reactions. They're way too excited over such a stupid game that anybody with more than 2 brain cells will not be that excited to see. The second thing to know, and this is a fun fact, is that it is 100% illegal for them to even be operating out here in the public on the sidewalk like that. These massive casinos here in Las Vegas on the Strip that cost billions of dollars to build must have a license for gaming. Video poker bars must have a license for gaming. If you're going to be holding any kind of gambling, you must have a license for it. So there's no way some Joe Blow here on the sidewalk is running any sort of legitimate gambling operation. The fifth and final scam we're going to talk about here in Las Vegas is particularly cruel, is because it comes from teenagers. Teenagers out here trying to hustle people out of their money on the Las Vegas Strip. This one also actually happened to me on a pedestrian bridge. I walked about halfway across the bridge, saw the 3-card Monty scam. By the time I got to the end of the pedestrian bridge, there was a teenager asking me for a donation for his high school basketball team. Now, a couple things really stood out to me in this short interaction I had. Now, the first one was obvious that he was trying from the get-go really hard to make himself sound legitimate. Gives me his name and then immediately says he has an ID on him that I never asked for, which means it's probably a scam. He was definitely trying way too hard. The other thing was that this was about 3:30 in the afternoon on a weekday during basketball season, and there were no adults around. So I said, hey, what's your coach's name for your high school? Gave me a coach's name, and I showed him the photo on the website. I said, you sure it's not this guy? He goes, oh, that's the wrestling coach. I said, really? Because it says on the website that he's your basketball coach. He goes, oh, well, yeah, well, he's one of our coaches. I hope you found this video helpful. When you come here to Las Vegas, definitely enjoy yourself, definitely have a blast. There's no shortage of fun, amazing things to do here on the Strip, off the Strip, and all over the place. But nonetheless, you do need to be aware, and you do need to be on the lookout for some of these scams, because it really would be a bad way to spend your vacation knowing you got scammed here in Las Vegas and having to leave here with that negative memory. Like the video, comment, subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet. I appreciate you watching. That is it for this one. I am Jacob, and this is my life in Vegas.